Rand Paul is an American politician and physician, serving as the junior United States Senator from Kentucky since 2011, alongside Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He is the son of former U.S. Representative Ron Paul of Texas. Paul began practicing ophthalmology in 1993 in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and... What? But you said... Oh, okay. Ron Paul is an American author, physician, and retired politician who... Now, if you want something done right... Let's start that over, shall we? Paul Rand was an American art director and graphic designer, best known for his corporate logo designs, including the logos for IBM, UPS, Enron, Morningstar Incorporated, Westinghouse, ABC, and Next. He was one of the first American commercial artists to embrace and practice the Swiss style of graphic design. Paul Rand was born as Peretz Rosenbaum in Brooklyn, New York in 1914. As Orthodox Jewish law forbids the creation of graven images that can be worshipped as idols, it seemed unlikely that Rand would grow up to be a designer, let alone one of the world's most prolific and celebrated. This career choice was one that Paul embraced at a very young age, painting signs for his father's grocery store, as well as for school events. Rand's father did not believe art could provide his son with a sufficient livelihood, so he required Paul to attend Manhattan's Heron High School while taking night classes at the Pratt Institute, though neither of these schools offered Rand much stimulation. Fortunately, this would be the last time this sentiment would be echoed by anyone on the planet. I'm allergic to lies. Despite studying at Pratt and other institutions in the New York area, Rand was, by and large, self-taught as a designer, learning about the works of many designers from European magazines such as G. Now, as you may or may not be aware, global sentiment towards the Jewish people during the 1920s and 30s was not great. For this reason, Peretz Rosenbaum decided he would rebrand himself with 8 snappy letters borrowed from around his family. Peter Behrens noted the importance of this new title. Rand's new persona, which served as the brand name for many of his accomplishments, was the first corporate identity he created, and it may also eventually prove to be the most enduring. As Rand skyrocketed to the front of his career in page setting for magazines, he began to experiment with corporate design. According to graphic designer Louis Danziger, he almost single-handedly convinced business that design was an effective tool. Anyone designing in the 1950s and 60s owed much to Rand, who made it largely possible for us to work. He made more than anyone else the profession reputable. We went from being commercial artists to being graphic designers largely on his merits. The core ideology that drove Rand's career, and thus the influence he left behind, was the modernist philosophy he so revered. He celebrated the works of artists from Paul Cézanne to Janet, and consistently attempted to draw the connections between their creative output and significant applications in graphic design. Although his logos may be interpreted as simplistic, Rand was quick to point out in his book A Designer's Art that ideas do not need to be esoteric to be original or exciting. His Westinghouse trademark, created in 1960, epitomizes that ideal of minimalism while proving Rand's point that a logo cannot survive unless it is designed with utmost simplicity and restraint. Rand remained vital as he aged, continuing to produce important corporate identities into the 80s and 90s with a rumored $100,000 price per single design. The most notable of his later works was his collaboration with Steve Jobs for the Next computer corporate identity. Rand's simple black box breaks the company name into 2 lines, producing a visual harmony that endeared the logogram to Steve Jobs. He was pleased. Just prior to Rand's death in 1996, Steve Jobs labeled him the greatest living graphic designer.